And then this one says solve for x and y. But usually we know that when we solve for x and y, it's when we're given two equations. That is where we solve the simultaneous equations. But for this one, we are only given one equation, but we want to find the value of x and y. So this is what you have to understand here. The square of any number is always 0 or positive. I'm saying the square of any number is always 0 or positive. I'm saying for as long as I'm going to square a certain number, it will always give me positive or 0, because if you can substitute here with any number, negative or positive, you will always get a positive. But if I can put 0, so it means I will get 0. So that is why I'm saying the square of any number is always 0 or positive. And then another thing to know is that for the sum of two squares to be 0, both squares must be 0. Let me repeat. I'm saying for the sum of two squares to be 0, both squares must be 0. So now I'm having a sum of two squares. This is 3x minus y all squared plus x minus 5 all squared equal to 0. So for this to be true, for this left hand side to be equal to the right hand side, meaning for this to be 0, it means this must also be 0, because what we know is that this will always be positive or 0. And now because you're having a sum here, we are saying there is a certain thing here plus also here. When we add them, we must get 0. So it's obvious it must be 0 and 0, because let's say if we substitute here with any positive number, let's just say this part becomes positive and then this part becomes positive, and then let's just say for in case this is 1 and then this is also 1. So it means this is going to be 1 plus 1 and then it gives you 2, and then 2 is not equal to 0. Remember that you can never have a positive here and then a negative here. Like we said, you will always get a positive or 0. So it means for us to be able to get 0 on the left hand side, it means this part must be 0 and then this part must also be 0. So that is why I'm saying for the sum of two squares to be 0, both squares must be 0. So from there it means what I can do is to say 3x minus y must be 0. I'm saying this square must be 0 and x minus 5 all squared must be 0. So the sum of these two squares must also be 0. So it means if this part can be 0 and then this part can be 0, so 0 plus 0 will be 0, therefore left hand side will be equal to right hand side. So from there we can solve. So this is squared, by the way, and then now you can put square root both sides. So if you put square root both sides, it means this one is going to cancel this one. So now this is the same as saying 3x minus y equal to 0, and then we do the same here. We put the square root both sides. So it means x minus 5 equal to 0, and then from there we can easily solve for x. Therefore x equal to 5. And then now, because we know the value of x, we can simply find the value of y. So this means 3x equal to y. And then from there, this is 3 into 5 equal to y. Therefore it means y must be 15. So these are the values of x and y. X must be 5 and then y must be 15. So this is how we solve this problem.